I will introduce to you the moderator, Mr. Ashim Sharma. After completing his B.Tech with honors in mechanical engineering from National Institute of Technology, Hamirpur, Ashim started his career at Mahindra automotive sector, wherein he worked within the core team that launched the new Mahindra Bolero in 2007. Thereafter, he went on to do his MBA from SP Jain Institute of Management and Research, Mumbai, and joined Tata Strategic Management Group based out of Mumbai. Ashim is also a member of the WBSCD India RE Mobility Forum and has worked extensively and developed thought leadership in the area of alternate power trains, electric, hybrid, natural gas, etc. He is also working on development of the Industrial Promotion Plan, a JICA-funded project with the government of Philippines. We have with us our first panelist, Mr. Ramani Krishnan. So please get your hands together, ladies and gentlemen, as Ashim Sharma joins us on stage, our moderator. We would like to welcome on stage our first panelist, Mr. Ramani Krishnan. He is a center of excellence in the area of stamping and paint technology in Mahindra and Mahindra with over 25 years experience. Please get your hands together, ladies and gentlemen, as Mr. Krishnan joins us on stage. We also have with us Mr. Marc Weinmann, founder, CEO, VEM Tooling, China, Thailand, Bulgaria, India, and Mexico. His start in India was with one salesperson in 2015. Today, VEM Tooling India plant has over 100 employees in Pune and additionally 12 Indian employees working in Thailand plant in senior management position. With a capacity of more than 200 molds per year, the first 4 injection machines have been installed for mold testing in-house, and VEM India is now approved supplier for some of the big OEMs, and they are tier 1 suppliers for mold making. Further expansion in India is scheduled. Please get your hands together, ladies and gentlemen, as Mr. Marc Weinmann joins us on stage. Mr. Weinmann, I guess, has just stepped out. He will join us shortly. We have with us our next panelist, Mr. Günther Prunner. Mr. Günther Prunner is Regional Innovation Manager with Voestalpine. Since 2018, he has been the Regional Innovation Manager, responsible for innovations, new technologies in the region international, focuses on AM, that is powder and components in the whole region, creation of new sales concepts, focus on application engineering, and implementation of coating and other new technologies in the whole region. Please get your hands together, ladies and gentlemen, as Mr. Günther Prunner joins us on stage. And finally, we would like to invite on stage Mr. Kannan Venkatraman, Milacron India Private Limited, Mold Masters Division. Managing Director, Mr. Kannan has over 35 years of experience in the plastic field. More than 25 years have been spent working outside India, engaged in setting up, running, and managed tool room in Malaysia and Singapore. From 2000, with Mold Masters, started up in Canada as Technical Application Head, managed the Southeast Asia business from 2007 to 2011 in Singapore, and in Coimbatore from 2011, and as Managing Director for Mold Masters, a Milacron company. Please get your hands together, ladies and gentlemen, as Mr. Kannan Venkatraman joins us on stage. Mr. Marc Weinmann has just joined us, so may I request Mr. Weinmann to join us on stage. Thank you. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to hand over the panel to our moderator, Mr. Ashim Sharma. Please get your hands together, ladies and gentlemen, as our panel is in progress.
Thank you. Thank you, Everest. And I have the unique opportunity of delivering a presentation and then asking questions rather than being asked questions. So we'll try and keep this as interesting as possible. We have an August panel here representing both an Indian OEM, representing an Indian machine tool maker. We're representing also global tool rooms, and we also have global steel makers with us. So I think we'll be able to have a very good perspective for all of the speakers on the topic today. Before I begin, maybe I would like to start with Mr. Ramani Krishnan, Because, since morning we've seen that everybody's been talking about if tooling has to be localized in India, probably the OEMs need to take the first step in that direction. So, and we know that Mahindra has a captive tool room. Mahindra has also been making many models every year. Therefore, the requirement for tooling has been going up. And at the same time, we've also been importing tools. So what do you think is needed to actually make tooling get manufactured locally within India?
Good morning, all of you. It is really an honor and privilege to be here. And I represent the OEM. Whatever views I am putting it is my personal view, doesn't represent my company or anything else. To start with, Mr. DK's speech as well as Ashim's presentation made my life very easy, because whatever I want to say, whatever it was in my mind, they echoed it in their speech as well as their presentation. Now coming back to Mahindra, yes, we do develop a lot of tools. I am being responsible for developing the sheet metal tools, mostly on the stamping dies. We call it A category and B category, in the tune of, in a year, near about 2,000 tons of dies we purchase, which does not include the small dies or molds or jigs and fixtures. I'm purely talking about the stamping tools, what we purchase it. Now coming back to the localization, I am with Mahindra last 20 years. Just to give a background, I started the tooling development, our first project, which is Scorpio, not before that. Since then, I am working on it. I could see and I could witness, I am experiencing a lot of change. For example, when we started the Scorpio, our local content, including our captive tooling, it's our captive tooling, yes, we do captive. But we do, my colleagues are sitting here, we do treat them as our supplier in spite of our own company. So where the localization was less than 20% the toolings, A and B category. And in last 15 to 20 years, the magnitude of change is recently we are developing, and we developed a model, and one more model is in the pipeline, where other than one part, because of some complexity and the time, rest all we are developing from India, which almost 14 tool makers in India, they are developing entire project. So this is the level of localization where we and our company, our senior men believe that not only make in India, grow in India, make our suppliers, we don't call them as suppliers or tool suppliers, we call them as business partners. So this is the level of confidence and the level of courage we are willing to support the local industry. So this is the first contest. Now coming to Indian tool makers, I don't see anything that we are Indian tool makers, because I am very closely associated with it, very extensively associated with the tool rooms in Japan, Korea, Taiwan, China, including Taiwan, and some of the European concerns. So we are not lagging anywhere. I don't see anything is there. Only we need to have a slight corrections. I just echo what sir said, that just what we need is compete with cooperation, collaboration, and progress it. With this, I would like to start that.
All right. Thank you for those words. Now moving on, I would like to ask Günther, you've been in India in form of a joint venture for a fairly long period now, since 2004. So you sort of represent another element here, that somebody from a global base coming to India and setting up a facility here and then growing it here. What sort of challenges did you face, and do you think some of those are prevalent even today if a global tool room has to come into India, or a global manufacturer has to come into India, or have those changed dramatically over a period of time?
Yeah, thank you very much for invitation, and it's also an honor for me to be here today. Hello to everybody. Very good question, and it's a wide group of answers I could give you. What we see very, very clear is change. We all know the message, the only constant in our life is the change, and especially when it's coming to tooling, to support in tooling, to integration to the automotive industry, to the OEMs, we see many, many trends. Our DNA is, as the world leader on tool steel producing and tool steel service, a very, very strong trend towards the service level we have to bring to the market. And especially here in India, we see that more and more as important. The tool steel or the right steel used in the ties is not good enough anymore. We have to be on time. We have to be with the right service, starting as a fundament with the steel, but getting more and more to the service levels, like the right heat treatment for that, like ongoing coatings with that, and also our latest developments, the integration of additive manufacturing in the tooling industry offers the right solution to the market. And this is the point. We are talking just more about solutions. A steel is not required anymore at our OEMs. It is a solution to be successful, to meet the requirements of the product. And this could be an improvement of cycle time, but this could be also a reduction of scrap rates. So we have to talk more and more the language of our customer, the language of the OEMs and of the tier ones, to understand the requirements and to offer them the right solutions.
Thank you. I think interesting, understand more and more the language of the tier ones and the OEMs to provide the solution. Marc, you also somewhat represent a very similar thing about having set up a factory in India. However, with you, I would also want you to touch upon another aspect. You also have factories in China. And so you can also probably compare and contrast in terms of what sort of a different role the government has played in China vis-a-vis India, which has led to China becoming a big tooling hub today as against India.
So first of all, good morning everybody, and thank you for having me. Before we start, I would like to give one little comment to Mr. Kaka, who gave all of us some advice how the tool shops in India have to improve. If I may give that back, I would like to ask him for one little thing, how he can make his life much better and how he can help the tool shops. And it is one thing, you just force your tier ones to pick the tool maker a little bit earlier. Because if you pick your tool maker earlier, number one, you give them more security for planning. Number two, you give them much more time to make mold designs and think about concepts. So he complained about no rigid molds, too many mistakes. Get your tool maker 6-8 weeks earlier in front. You don't lose one day if you pick your tool maker earlier. The only ones who are not going to be so happy are the tier ones, because they're going to lose maybe 5% of the margin. I tell you quickly what happens to us. On a Friday evening, I get the RFQ from my tier one. I have to quote on Monday morning. And then, maybe 1-2 weeks later, they might decide to give me the whole package or nothing. And I get the purchase order in the morning, and in the afternoon, I get the email from the project managers, you are already too late. So this is how it works. So, and then they expect us to make a very quick mold design. Manufacturing, I understand. You have certain ways, processes, how to do it. There's not so much to do right now. We talk about it later, how to get faster, but at least help me with a design. And every tool maker will be happy to make a mold design with a letter of intent without having any down payments. So quickly, that was the one thing for Mr. Kaka and all the OEMs, including Volkswagen, whatever. Help the tool shops, just force the tier ones, give us the assignment earlier. Right. To go back to your question, I opened a tool shop in China in 2003. For 3 years, I was a tool trader, 2000, 2003. All the horror stories you hear about sourcing molds from China happened to me. So I'm not a tool maker, but I had the customer, but I didn't have the supplier. So I opened my own tool shop. And I have to say, in 2003, I felt very welcome in China. The government was really pushing, supportive. No import duties on any machineries. Very good infrastructure, tax advantages. So they really pushed the tooling industry, and you see what happened. Look how big the tooling industry in China is. Things are changing a little bit in China right now. You all know that China had for many, many years the one-child policy. So you have one child, 2 parents, 4 grandparents. you cannot imagine how spoiled the young Chinese generation is. In the opposite, look in India, I'm sure everybody of you has at least one brother or sister or more. So this is a big, big difference. And for the few princesses and princes who still want to work, there is a Jack Ma. Jack Ma is the owner of Alibaba, one of the richest men in China. So all my young Chinese people I talk to, my friends, the kids from my friends there, from my staff, they say, oh, I want to be like Jack Ma. I want to be in the internet business. No one wants to get their hands anymore in dirty. So, going to India, first of all, compliments to your government, zero corruption, at least for me, setting up my factory. When I told my friends, my Western friends, and actually 2 of them are Indians, and I told them I'm going to open a company in India, they said, oh, you're crazy, don't do it, it's not going to work. And of course, I don't listen to them, so I tried it, and it worked very well, I have to say, really. Absolutely, government has done a good job. Everything is online, no issues, no headaches, no nothing. I have troubles with the Chinese government in some areas, India, nothing. So there's the good thing. The bad thing is the import duty on the machineries. So right now I gave the Indian government a loan of a few $100,000, and for every machine I bring in, I have to give them more loans in terms of the import tax. I'll get it back in the future, but the banks don't want to borrow against it. So interest-free loan to your government.
Right.
So these are the negative things.
Okay, understand. Thank you. I think that's very interesting, and I think you've given a very positive thing to how the government's been helping the tooling industry, probably helping businesses that are coming into the country. Maybe we can talk later a little bit about skill development and the government's role therein as well. Now, moving on to Kannan, and you are very strategically, in this panel, you the OEM perspective, you heard the global perspective. I think you can share more of the ground reality of the Indian tool rooms and what is really needed to make them scale up and to make the overall ecosystem for tooling in India more and more vibrant.
Good morning to everybody and all my senior tooling entrepreneurs around here, toolmakers especially. I'm a toolmaker by profession. Thank you, Mr. Raguraj, for putting the seed on me and making me a toolmaker. I'm proud to be a toolmaker. I think we are in a good time. I think tool room in India are in a growth mode. We just need a little bit of tweaking in the understanding of the OEMs, the expectations from the tier ones, the OEMs, and we are learning. It's not like with no supports literally from the government, when you really look at it, we did not have much of support. From the investor perspective, from the bank's perspective, there is no big supports to the tool rooms. We still pay the highest interest rates for the equipment that we get. And the tool rooms are growing. And your research was fantastic, but I think more towards the automotive sector more than any other sector. Today, I'm very proud that there are different sectors in tooling industry. We talk about the packaging and the personal care sectors. They have gone overboard. And today, Indian tool makers in the packaging industry export 50% of their molds out of India. And this has happened with few changes. More than 50% of the top tool rooms in India, they are exporting molds, high cavity molds. You can talk about even up to 144 cavities are made here and delivered outside. Coming back to the electronic industries, I'm sure that there must be a lot of people from Milacron, Schneider, and all those people. They make 100% tools over here. When I say 100, anywhere about 90 over, we call ourselves as very successful. Those are all manufactured here. When it comes to automotive industry and white goods industry, so when people talk about import, I feel a little bad because majority of the tools, the number of molds what is made is mainly on the automotive and in the white goods area when it comes to the volume. But when it comes to the number of cavities and all that, it's the packaging, the personal cares, the electronic industries which takes through. Tool rooms are in a growth mode. That's number one. It just needs, as I said, it just needs the OEM, especially the people who are in the supplier chain. I need a little bit of thought process to be changed by them. And be proud that when we work, we should build the Indian tool rooms more than anything else. And maybe probably on your next question, I'll explain you how exactly what made the differences in the packaging and the personal care industry. why they were able to export 50% of their molds built in India outside, not to the third world countries. They are shipping out majority of the molds today to Europe and North America. They also ship to the other areas. I'll just touch a little bit based on it.
Sure.
Just the confidence level, the touch of the tool makers are all available. It just needs a little bit of uplifting of the industry to the tool makers. With no support from outside, it is the OEMs and the tier one who have to hold these suppliers and lift them up. They should consider them as their family member and then build it. And that's how that industry has taken it over. I mean, there's a lot of criteria when you really look at it from payment terms. If there is any OEMs and tier ones, please don't misunderstand me. Because there is a partiality in terms of the payment terms which is done to a mold which is purchased outside India and the mold's payment terms purchased within India. I'm sure the tool makers will agree for it. Number two is the engineering changes. You know, there are a lot of engineering changes which comes in on a product. We may not be experts in designing the product because the exposure is not to the extent of the developed nations. But when that comes in, when there is any changes which happens outside India, there's always a certain amount of engineering change payments done or money paid for the engineering changes. And those are all not being considered around here. Can be 10 testings, it's still considered as one tooling by itself. I'm representing more onto the mold side. Sorry about the sheet metal or the die casting. So I'm talking on the mold perspective, that when there is a change coming up on the product, the OEMs and tier ones need to consider that too. So few things, if they can tweak it out and build the tool makers around, I think we will reduce our imports today, which we are talking about 70% of the molds getting imported for the automotive and white goods can easily bring below 50% or below 40%. And thanks to companies like Maruti, Tata and all, they're literally, Mahindra for example, literally getting their molds, irrespective of whatever it is, they burden the people around a little bit, you still make your molds around here. Thanks for supporting the tool makers. Thank you.
Thank you. So great. Now, we've heard a perspective from all of you, and now, I've sort of been able to summarize that we've spoken about skills, we've spoken about, capital investments, duties, we've spoken about export promotion, we've spoken about availability of machines, also coordinating activities. For example, you mentioned, Tier 1 doesn't involve you right at the start. We've also spoken about advance payments, differences between overseas and domestic. And one aspect that we've not spoken about, but I would also like to touch upon, is the new technology disruption that is also going to happen in this industry. Now, with these sort of points in mind, maybe I can start off with you, Ramani, and say, so there are all of these aspects that I just talked about. And I think first and foremost amongst them, let us take skill, availability of capital, whether it's for investments or whether it's working capital, and the coordination between the tool makers. When we contrast this situation with tier ones in the industry, let's take the automotive industry, we see that this is extremely seamless. Also, OEMs and tier ones give each other credit for creating a very vibrant, localized automotive industry in the country. Why for so long do you think the same has not been possible when it comes to the tooling industry?
A bit complex question, and the thing is, I'll break into small segments. Yes, one thing we have to realize that we are in a VUCA world. A lot of uncertainty, changes, expectation changes. I agree with Mr. Kannan also. There are ECN changes, everything. Because as we progress, a lot of changes are coming. As everyone echoed the same, the change.
Yes.
Change cannot be changed, it will be there. So we are in a tough situation. Now, coming to the skill and everything is, this is what one of the today morning, Mr. DK as well as Mr. Kakkar as well as you echoed one thing, if all of you as confident, you are all on the same page, one thing is, which is the skill. Yes, we need to improve on the skill. In Mahindra, instead of improving the skill, we look into the de-skilling the process and the things. So what I mean is, instead of looking for a skill, everything, we are going to use the de-skilling, how to get out of the skilling, which is really the scarcity. What we once upon a time we had to call craftsmanship or the final tool making version of craftsmanship. It's a highly skilled and very highly privileged. So the supply and demand is going to be always a difference. So what we expect is we are trying to bridge is the use of the technologies. This is high level of software, simulations are available, use that. And also use the database, create the database, go with your lessons learned or share the knowledge. Things went right, things went wrong. Create the database, learn from the mistakes, learn from the success. So document it, share it. That's what I say, that share and grow. The third one is the bringing more standardization of the process. These are the driving factors, these are the changes. If you are expect the unexpected to come, if you are equipped with all the things will be more simpler and it will be easier for the tooling industry as well as the OEM. And we are sincerely looking for, these are the things from the tooling industry. Also what we want the tooling industry to come out from the conventional way of thinking. As he said that, Mr. Kakar also said the same thing, the expectations. What once upon a time we used to work into to meet the customer on the functionality. Later on, functionality become the performance. Now performance has become all put together. It is the aesthetics, performance, functional and expectations and surpass the expectation of the customers. So these are the things are driving from our side. We expect the same thing from the tool industry, think differently out of boxing thing, where the OEMs going outside, when we look into the other tooling industries outside, where people are coming with the new ideas, so they literally make our life also simpler in terms of time, and the complexity is higher, but at the same time, the time and our yield or our capital investment, our process will become more robust. This is what's happening.
All right. So, I mean, just to sum up, can we think or can we safely assume, just like Mahindra has this excellent supplier technical assistance kind of programs where you help suppliers become better and better over a period of time, something like that could be replicated for the tooling industry in the future?
Yeah, it is not that something in future. What we do is, those who are working with our T1 suppliers and even T2 suppliers, we have a supplier technical assistance program.
Right.
Also, we go there and we develop them with them. And in fact, we have a concept of Gurukul, or we got dexterity centers in our own. We call them, we train them. Even in our captive tool room also, we call them, we train them. So this we do it. Also, we take a few of our suppliers, our T1 suppliers, to the global place where how things are happening, because we do have a lot of technical centers and production centers outside India. We take them, we train them, we show them. These are the things happening. And apart from that, from Mahindra side, instead of we directly force upon, this is what it is, simply bulldozing it without realization, we also do a lot of back end work. Those who are working with Mahindra, they understand, they appreciate the efforts what we are putting it. In fact, we do the tooling development, the simulation and the process planning. We are attempting to go for 70% of the BOM is ready, design is ready. With that, we are giving to them so that we will be very realistic and we will be very rational with them on demanding the time and the cost what we support it. It's not that apart from that, when they are in trouble, we go and we bail it down with the lot of our experts. What we have in expertise in-house as well as outside, we support them a lot. So this is the way we supporting them, and we are very open to share our knowledge and experience. Those who are working with it, they endorse my views.
All right. Thank you very much. And I think with that, it's a very positive step. And if I believe every OEM starts taking that, we could really see transformation in the tooling industry in the country. Thank you very much.
That is the questions from our side also.
Thank you. Thank you. Moving on to you, Günther, and with you amongst these aspects, I would like to touch upon one around new technology disruption, because you've also seen some of these things happening also in the tool steel area, also globally. What do you think are the next set of disruptions that are coming and that the tooling industry needs to be prepared for? And are there any lessons from global geographies that could be adopted here?
Yeah, very good question. I think everything starts with the right communication. As we are prepared for many, many technology directions, we always have to understand where are the needs, where are the pain points, where are the requirements. Just basic vendors do not describe this. So that means communication, clear communication is the first hint which technologies are the right one for the tooling. And we see very serious trends to talk about smart tools. Tools with sensorics, especially when it's coming to heat-affected tools. Temperature, die temperature management, stuff like this is coming up more and more. To have more knowledge what's going on in our tools, to have more control about that, and to have more reliability on that. I think there is a trend that the tool user, the OEM, is not pushing too hard to have highest numbers, but they are pushing very hard to have constant high numbers. So these requirements need to be clear defined, and technologies like sensorics, smart toolings, additive manufacturing, powder metallurgical trends in the tooling industry, these are technologies we see already very strong in today, but even more tomorrow. And when I look to the Indian OEM and tooling frame, then I have to see that this is a very clear trend, and there is not really a big difference if I compare this to North America and to Europe. We have always the trends to be more successful, to be quicker, to be just in time. Models are changing more rapidly, so that means tooling has to change more rapidly. And I can really also underline the message of my colleague here, to be earlier integrated in new projects and processes will help everybody to be more successful, from the tool maker to the tool user to the OEM.
Right, thank you. Just a small follow-on question on that. Now, you talked about all these trends and disruptions coming. Have any sort of steps been taken either by the tool makers by way of making additional investments in R&D to be able to, brace up for these trends, or some things happening at their customers' end in terms of R&D, which is then being passed on as learning to these tool makers so that they're better prepared for these trends, or something that the government is proactively doing so that tool makers can be geared up for these trends in the global markets?
I think these new technologies are global trends. So we see them popping up here, popping up there, as the world is getting so global and the connectivity is so high. So everybody knows more or less everything what happened yesterday in one part of one continent in the world. So these R&D activities are for sure the key to be prepared for the future demands on the OEM's requirements. Especially the automotive industry is driving that very, very rapidly. Today everybody is talking about additive manufacturing, 3D printing or direct metal deposition, tool repair. Those are the technologies of tomorrow to be more efficient, and R&D is key to that. We are investing many millions of euros in R&D because we do believe this is the only way to be one step ahead, to be really right with the technology and the demands from the OEMs for the future.
All right, thank you. Sort of continuing on the same train of thought, Marc, and you represent a tool maker that is on the cutting edge of technology in various areas. You could also talk a little bit more about those disruptive trends, and from your experience, what have been some of the forces that are there, and how have, say, tool makers, the OEM customers or government been able to tackle these? And second, I also want you to touch upon, you did say that the government of India probably did not cause any problems in you coming here, but could they have also helped the industry more by, say, setting up skill centers and things like that, which you might have seen in China, etc.?
So first of all, I need to always understand what does my customer want, because if my customer is not happy, I have no business. And my tooling customers, they always want one thing. They want their mold much faster. So if I look at your timeline, what you had up there, how long it takes to make a mold, where are the key components? Number one is the design. So right now you need about 2 to 3 weeks, and this is software. So what is India strong for? Software. So I'm pretty sure that the software companies and with the artificial intelligence, there will be ways to get the mold design down to much, much shorter time. We're working on that. Actually, we're teaming up with a university in India to develop something like that.
Okay.
The second thing is the manufacturing of the tool. Right now, you have a block of steel, you do the rough cutting, you do the fine cutting, EDM, wire cut, and all of those things. Takes an average somewhere 4, 6, 7 weeks. I'm pretty sure that in the next 5 years, most of the molds, at least the cores and cavities, will be printed. And if you print it, you can, first of all, you don't need to order the block of steel, you just need to have the powder on stock. You put it in your 3D printer, you have any kind of cooling systems, any kind of forms, maybe you have 30 micron too much, but that one, do the final finishing on a CNC machine. So I predict that in the next 5 to 8 years, the tooling time, which you had 80, 90 global tool rooms, 120 days in India, will come down to maybe 20, 30 days. And this will have major, major consequences for a lot of tool shops, especially for the small tool shops. Just think of it. If you right now need 3 months for a tool and you can make it in 1 month, what does it do to your capacity? What does it do to the output? So major, major changes are coming, and my worry for a lot of my fellow colleagues here, they're not really seeing that. And this is what keeps me up at night.
Okay, well, I thought that's very interesting. And I mean, if that is going to happen, I think, as I was also mentioning some time back, that would make then the global tool rooms take a further leap as compared to the Indian tool rooms. So hence a need to do something more in the local industry.
You know, this is actually a big advantage for India because you're lacking behind in infrastructure and everything. But if you all of a sudden have a new level, a new playing field, it's much easier to catch up. And India has a lot of smart people. I'm really amazed about the intelligence challenges I get in my Indian company. I don't see this in China, but I see this here in India. The guys come, they question me, they challenge me here. I love it. I love the discussions, and it brings us further. So this is the big opportunity I see for India. Talking about the government, you know, I'm not a friend of governments at all. It doesn't matter if it's in Germany, in the US, in India, or in China. I think we need to kind of survive without governments. But at least if the governments can make sure they have a level playing field for everybody, that would be a good thing.
Right.
The one thing what I mentioned earlier, and I will follow up later, one of the earlier people up on the stage said there's 3D printing coming in India, steel printing. This is the future. So I would be very interested to start looking into this, and if it's a university or company, I would like to talk to them and see if we can somehow work together.
Right, sure. Thank you, and especially for that very interesting perspective on how the playing field might change. I think the closest analogy to that is when we talk of electric vehicles. That's suddenly disruptive technology, and you could have new players. So it becomes a level playing field for everyone. So clearly, there's an opportunity for the Indian tool rooms out there. I think I've also been sounded out a little bit on time, so maybe I'll start with a summarization, starting with you, Kannan. So we know, let's broadly take 3 stakeholders, and depending on whom the question is coming to, say you yourself, an Indian tool room, and say the stakeholders being the government, the customer, that is the OEMs for you, and maybe the global tool rooms. What are the 2 things that you are willing to do so as to promote localization in the country, and what is the one thing you would want from each of the stakeholders to make this possible?
Sure. As I said, if there is a clear inline alignment or alignment between the government or the OEM and the tool makers, I think it's very, very clear when we don't involve government, let's say, we talk about the OEMs, Tier 1 and the tool makers. Any projects which is done in alignment with all the OEMs, Tier 1 and the tool makers has been very, very successful. I don't think there's any project that has failed without having a clear expectation from each one of them. I mean, Marc, I acknowledge that you mentioned the skill level of the Indian people. Thank you very much. If you really look at it, tool making in India, I've been mentioning around, it is, if the alignment is very clear, you will have the output coming on as expected. And 2 things, speed has to be improved, no doubt about it. I think speed is the tool makers. I think the differentiation, what keeps us from the rest of the other countries is, number 1 is the speed. Number two is whatever is the commitment that we gave, what you mentioned about the gaps. If you commit some deliveries on time to your OEMs, deliver it on time so that you get your repeat orders coming through you. And there is a gap over there. Number three is, even though we have the best skills of tool making or hands-on experiences, knowledge, whatever, the last 2% on the finishing of the tool is the most critical thing, and that is where we actually leave that around. The differences between the finishing of the tool that we make here and outside the other part of the world is that last 2%, the focus and completion and maintaining the dimensions to the drawing is where we lack a little bit. And if we can focus on the speed, the quality comes in. The third thing is, if you maintain that last 2% accuracy on the tooling, I'm sure that we will have all the businesses out of the OEMs and the tier ones for the Indian tool makers around here. And I'm proud, because when people talk about it, we export about $1 million worth of hot runner systems to European country. And when somebody says that tool making is not good, we supply hot runner systems out of India to Europe. To the automotive tool makers in Europe, we supply about $1 million worth of hot runner systems out of India. Every mold which is made in Europe using our hot runner system is made in India. Designed, manufactured, made in India. So when somebody says that India doesn't have the capability, I don't believe it. It's a question of putting the processes in place, putting the right systems in place, making sure we make the right, do the speed, quality, and if we can deliver on time, absolutely we can have that. Thank you.
Marc, what about you? What do you think is maybe the two things you're willing to do to improve localization of tooling in India, and what would be your expectations from the other stakeholders? Maybe one each from the stakeholders.
Let me put that in a little bit a bigger context.
Okay.
And first of all, I think TACMA is a very good institution. I think it's a very good idea, and I would like to encourage all my colleague tool makers that maybe we should consider putting maybe $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a year extra into TACMA and asking them to get a professional team on board, a full-time professional team who can start looking into new technologies, new softwares, maybe the steel printing, and share this with all the members. Because even my company, and we do 500 molds a year, we're actually too small to do that R&D on our own. But if we team together under the TACMA umbrella and work this and do this, I'm sure we can all have success. Because in the end, we are not competing against other Indian tool makers. We're competing against China. That is the big thing. So I'm pretty sure that India, together with all the resources and the brains you have here, you can develop that. Because in the end, it has to be, at least for the tool making section, make India great again.
Right. Thank you. Thank you for that very interesting perspective. To you, Günther, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I do, and I see that India is a very, very active market and prepared for changes, prepared for quick changes, and also interested in new technologies and not very strong hesitating to try it and to use it. Additive manufacturing as the driving force on this segment, and by the way, we have serious plans to invest here in 3D printing very, very soon, is the driving technology which will have strong influence to the tooling industry in India as well. I do believe from the discussions I had so far, the market is ready. It is course education which should be improved. We should have higher technology level, the widespread tooling industry here in India to talk about the new requirements and to fulfill them in a certain quality way.
Finally, and very importantly, our customers.
Okay, thanks, Ashim. I would like to sum up saying that once again, I want to reinforce it. We are willing to go for more and more localization. We are going ahead, and we will support in all aspects, both in technical as well as whatever deliverables. We assure it, and if required, we are ready to handhold also. So that is the assurance coming from our side. And what we expect is, right, likely Mr. Kannan said that we also practice that in our team, and our thing is speed, keep it simple, speed, simple and smart. So what we are expecting from the tool making company in Indian tool makers is the delivery. Delivery that comes with the quality, the time, as well as the technology are willing to it. The reason is, as I said, that what yesterday was the challenges become the norms today. We have to be geared up for the next level of changes which is coming for the complexity and the high strength steels, as well as the latest tool steels or the components what we are developing it. So I sum it up saying that expectation is improve on the delivery. That's what.
All right, thank you very much. Speed, simple and smart. I think that's a 3S mantra for all of us. I think with that, we've reached the end of this panel discussion, and I'm sure you all have heard a lot of enlightening thought from the August panel that we had today. Thank you all also for being a patient audience throughout this panel discussion. Thank you once again.
Very much. Unfortunately, we cannot take questions from the audience because we are running around 10 minutes late. But I would request my panelists to please stay back with us on stage because we would like to hand over a memento, a token of our appreciation. And I would request our moderator, Mr. Ashim Sharma, to hand over the tokens to our panelists. Ladies and gentlemen, a big thank you to Mr. Ramani Krishnan, Mahindra and Mahindra Limited. Mr. Marc, Weinmann, VEM Tooling India Private Limited. Mr. Günther, Prunner, Voestalpine Regional Innovation Manager. And Mr. Kannan, Venkatraman, Milacron India Private Limited. We would also like to say a big thank you to our moderator. May I request Mr. D.M. Sherigar, the Executive Committee member, Tagma, to join us on stage to hand over a token of our appreciation to Mr. Ashim Sharma. Can we have a huge round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for our moderator this morning?